everybody. Just thought I would pop on in here and just do a little personable live stream this morning. I just got done doing my workout at the gym, and this woman kicked my ass. I haven't done weightlifting in at least not like total body conditioning weightlifting in such a long time. But one of the reasons I'm going back to that is because I have been kind of disconnected from my body lately. A lot of my energy has been in my head, and I think that happens quite a bit. That's been some of my pattern. So I'm trying to activate my body a lot more. And, one of the things that I have felt coming up, and we talk a lot about this in this group, is wounded inner child stuff. And I've been feeling this disconnect. And my clothes haven't been fitting right, and I've been gaining weight. And when I was an adolescent and I was a younger child, I was overweight. And I think a lot of that had to do with both wanting to hide myself and wanting to be seen. And also, food was how I nurtured myself when I felt like I was in situations that weren't very nurturing. And so, but then like hating myself for being unattractive, in my opinion. And so a lot of that progressed through my adolescence. And when I've been doing a lot of the inner work to try to expand things, whether it's in relationships or whether it's in business or whether it's in any facet of my life, a lot of times it involves kind of peeling back these layers of myself and finding the versions of myself, the younger aspects of myself that I have somehow split off or decided to ignore, or I just didn't love at the time. And I've actually been doing so well lately, and then out of nowhere, I'm at war with my body again, and I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? There's no discernible trigger in my life. Things seem to be going pretty well. I'm doing so well on my own. What is going on? I'm having lots of dreams about things emerging from under the water and nightmares, and I feel exhausted when I wake up in the morning. And so in my experience, I feel like that's a sign that I need to go in and I need to do some inner work. And maybe it's not something that's going on outside of me. Maybe it's something that's going on inside of me. And sometimes when you're doing well, it's kind of like the universe says, hey, you're doing so good. Guess what? You're ready now to deal with whatever this shit is. And once you do, that expansion, that wave that you're riding high, you're going to be able to go even farther, even faster, even higher once you deal with this crap, right? Hi, Jessica. And so I'm like, okay, gotta go in. So I did some meditation, and I started doing this thing, which I didn't realize I was doing, but I remembered as I was doing it that I used to do this a lot when I was a young adult. And when I graduated high school, I went to art school, and I used to always, I was an illustrator, and then whenever I wanted to draw something, I would take a piece of paper and I would fold it and I would tear it. So I would never, it would be very hard for me to create artwork on something that I hadn't torn. There was something very important to me about the folding and the splitting and the tearing. And I feel like these days it kind of makes sense because I was compartmentalizing, right? I was splitting things off. I was organizing things so that I could get by. And so I haven't done that in a long time. And so as I sat down to try to process whatever these things are that are coming up, I found myself folding and tearing the pages. And I realized, oh, there's an aspect of myself from adolescence and early adulthood that is asking to be seen and processed here. And that made so much sense because of how that part of myself was expressing itself through my body and trying to communicate through my body. And so I ended up tearing up 16 pieces of paper, and I ended up just kind of free associating and writing down on each piece a thought or a quote or an image or a person, aspects of that time in my life that just kind of came flooding to the surface. In some cases, I wrote with my non-dominant hand to just allow my body to speak without my right brain getting involved. And I found myself crying after a while, and I kind of hugged myself, touched my arms and hugged myself, and I imagined that the contact that I felt was my adult self, and the part of me that was being held was my young adult, adolescent self. And I basically just told myself the things that I couldn't I couldn't at any other time say or accept. And, things like you did the best you could, you were bounced around between states, you had parents that didn't really see you and were very self-involved, did really good in school, you tried the hardest to be the good girl, people did see you, people still speak to you and mention you, even though you moved around to so many different schools, you're still remembered, that just saying all the things that I needed to hear and didn't hear and really beat myself up over. And I was just bawling, crying. Oh my God, I was crying all over the place. But for the first time, there was like this warmth in my heart space, and it started expanding, and I actually felt like as if a part of myself kind of came home. It makes me think of John Bradshaw and his book Homecoming, Reclaiming the Wounded Inner Child. But that was an aspect of myself that I think I had been really hard-pressed to accept. And the body stuff comes along with it. Even when I was pregnant with my son, some of that came up, and there was a lot of self-hatred around it. Even though, yes, you're pregnant, obviously you're going to gain weight, but I felt like I was falling back into this person that I hated. And so, after I had my son, I had a deep sense of depression, and I remember I would take diet pills and go to the gym 2-3 times a day. I lost a lot of weight very quickly, but it was like this punitive kind of thing that I was doing, and having a very conflicted relationship to motherhood, a lot of the attachment stuff coming up. So it was interesting because lately, in my life, things have been going better than they've ever been going before, and all of a sudden that comes up. So it created new space and opportunities for me to process it. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you, because I guess my point is that sometimes we think, oh, if I just meditate enough, or if I just go to enough yoga, or if I just do enough of the things I'm quote unquote supposed to be doing, then I'll finally get to this state where I'm happy all the time, and that'll be my happy ending, and the partner of my dreams will show up, and everything's just going to fall into place, and I never have to know what it's like to be uncomfortable or have a weird feeling again. And that's not really the way it works. It's more like, you kind of develop these tools and the skill set to understand and embrace and be welcoming of the weird things that will always be coming up. It's kind of like, I tend to think of it, some people think of it development sort of linearly, like that you're always progressing in one straight line, and I tend to think of it more as either an upward spiral or a solar system. So your work, I believe your work in your life, most people know what their work is in life, but that your work is probably ingrained in you since childhood, right? So, hi Jackie. So for me, the work has been love, and partnership has definitely been one thing. And then I think on the other hand, has been themes of rejection, and embracing myself and my own creativity. And so when I say rejection, that extends to rejection of myself and or rejection of partners, or being rejected by partners, right? So just rejection as a theme, and then love, of course, being the other side of that. And so love as in love with another, love as in self-love and acceptance, right? So I think that it's sort of whenever we have an experience of contrast or a relationship that sucks, hi Carl, or something that's really, painful, I almost feel like it's you've done a circumference around the sun, right? And then the next time you gain some perspective around it, you see it from 360-degree angle, and then you have another experience, only now, because you've gained that new perspective, that circumference is wider, and now your perspective is wider, and now you see those previous experiences in a broader perspective, right? Sometimes I call it moon's eye view, but you're always kind of circling around the same themes. I remember once when I was in my 20s, I was talking to someone who'd been, he was my boss, he had been the director of Bellevue Hospital in New York for 20 years. So he's pretty well known in the field, and psychiatrist. And I went into his office and I was like, I feel like my daddy issues are coming up again, and I thought I dealt with those like 4 years ago. He looks at me and he's like, the mommy issues and the daddy issues continue to come up over and over and over again. They don't go away. He's like, but every time they come up, you just pray that you have a little more perspective on them. And I think that that's kind of true, and sort of shifted my perspective in terms of like my expectations of myself, and I could stop being so critical of myself, right? So that's just a little personal story I wanted to share with you today. My advice is to stop being so critical of yourself, and if you feel like something's happening and you're not sure what's going on and what are these mysterious unconscious impulses acting themselves out, and or if your clothes aren't fitting you anymore and you just don't know what's going on with that, you might try to do a little bit of wounded inner child work and see what comes out. Oh, Jackie was thinking about some similar issues this morning. Yeah, right? Groupthink. But thank you all for joining me today on this live stream. And if you have any similar experiences or things that have come up in your experience, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And as usual, if you have any interest in learning more about the things that I talk about in this group and attachment styles and all that good stuff, most of you know I have a course available called Healing Attachment Wounds. And later, when I'm not sitting in the park, I will add a caption to this video where you can access that information. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.